Coming up next.
I want to play a game. What to say to Caitlyn haters. I'm going to give you 5 different things that you hear the most common about Caitlyn Clark and what you can say in response. No, she's really not that great of a shooter.
Stupid. You're stupid.
Paige Beckers has a better three-point percentage. Cool. She averages 3 times less. She's not a winner. She whines too much. It's all white privilege. Too many turnovers. If they don't want to like Caitlyn, they're not going to like Caitlyn. There's a lot of other things that are leaning into this, but in case you wanted it, I gave it to you. There you go.
All right, go ahead and show the clip.
And I want to play a game. This is a game I'm going to call What to Say to Caitlyn Haters.
Oh, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you.
I'm going to give you 5 different things that you hear the most common about Caitlyn Clark that are hateful. 5 most hateful comments and what you can say in response. Let's start off with the first one. You know, she's really not that great of a shooter.
Stupid. You're stupid.
You know, she's really not that great of a shooter. Look at people like Paige Beckers. You know, she has a better three-point percentage than she does.
I am a dumb.
This is one of the easiest ones to take down because people that try to equate simply three-point percentage into what makes somebody the best shooter in either the NBA or the WNBA clearly doesn't know shit, and they're just kind of talking out their ass. So Paige Beckers has a better three-point percentage. Cool. She averages 3 times less attempts from 3 per game than Caitlyn Clark does, 9 to 3. And oh, by the way, she's not nearly as guarded or double-teamed as Caitlyn is. Caitlyn still shoots 34% on 8.9 attempts per game. That is so elite. And when you also factor in she shoots from a longer average distance on her three-pointers than even Damian Lillard, Trae Young, or Steph Curry in the NBA, and still shoots 3 times as many and still shoots 34%, many of them off the dribble, many of them deep, many of them contested. It just gives you an idea of why we go, dude, really? Like, that's got to be one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. You just look at her counterpart, Steph Curry. I always call her Steph Curry in a ponytail. Where was Steph Curry last year? This is always a good litmus test. Where was Steph Curry ranked in three-point percentage? Just three-point percentage. Where was Steph Curry ranked in the NBA? Tell you. 44th. 39.7. He was ranked, if you go by just that stat, the 44th best shooter in the NBA. Have to factor in, he averaged 11.2 attempts per game. Meanwhile, other guys at the top of the list include names like Taurean Prince, Ty Jerome. Does anyone have the balls to tell me that they are clearly better shooters than Steph Curry because they have a higher three-point percentage and maybe just don't take as many and wait till they're wide open and it's an entirely different situation? So it's just so stupid to even try to throw that together. That's a bad example. That's a bad take. That's the easiest one to respond to. It's just they go three-point percentage to three-point percentage. Just bring up Steph Curry and like, dude, greatest shooter the world's ever seen. Last year was 44th. Because he has to take almost 12 a game, because he's always contested, because he's double-teamed, because he has to shoot from deep, because he's under pressure. There's more than just that one simple stat to prove if somebody's a great shooter or not. That was the easiest one, like I said, to respond to. Number 2, on things to say to Caitlyn haters. She's not a winner. Not a winner. No rings. No championship rings, unlike Angel or Paige. She's not a champion, therefore she is not one of the best out there. And the easiest thing I could say to that quickly is that, man, it's easy to run when you got a relay team. Try sprinting with a backpack. It's a whole different world, man. Caitlyn Clark took Iowa to the national championships twice without any other top 25 recruits. Caitlyn Clark took little-ass Iowa, who hadn't seen even a Final Four since the 80s, to back-to-back national championship games without any other top 25 players. You want to bring up Angel Reese and LSU? Fine. Did you know that they had at least 4 to 5 five-star recruits every single season that Angel was on LSU? You want to talk about Paige Beckers and UConn and really prove how stupid you are? Go look at the powerhouse that has been UConn forever and just the slew of 4 and 5 stars that they get every single year. Matter of fact, this last year when Paige won, she didn't just get a bunch of 4 and 5 star recruits. They got the Ivy League Player of the Year just for fun, Chen, to be thrown over. The other 2 girls who actually led the team in scoring those last couple games in their championship run at UConn were Fudd and Strong. They were the number 1 overall recruits the last 2 years. So they don't get just a little bit of the best. They are truly, it's a joke. It's ridiculous. So putting UConn and bringing up anyone who won a national title as that's why they're individually better than somebody else because they didn't is the equivalent of saying, like, Will Purdue has rings and Charles Barkley doesn't. Like, it's such a dumb example to bring up. But people will do it and people will say it. So the easiest thing to know is that Iowa was able to get to back-to-back twice without having any top 25 recruits at all. And Angel would have 4 to 5 every single year. And UConn had so many, Page didn't even have to be the leading scorer in the last couple games in order for them to easily win the championship. That is the same token as trying to say that like Steph Curry and Larry Bird ain't shit either because they took small schools almost to the title and weren't able to get it done. That's a dumb one. That's an easy one to respond to. Third one. Now we're getting closer. This is actually things that if people want to hate on Caitlin, this is actually a true one. She whines too much. She bitches too much about fouls, and she sometimes is bratty and has a bad attitude. This is actually a fair assessment and is probably the truest one yet. To the point I remember even her own dad was yelling at her from the stands in college one time and just went, stop. Like, shut up. Stop complaining. Play the game. This is something she definitely needs to work on, is the whining and the technical fouls. But in her defense, I will say, and to anyone else who says it, dude, you try getting your ass kicked every night just for the crime of showing up. You try getting your ass kicked every night just for the crime of showing up. Caitlin Clark never starts anything, but boy, every single game she goes to, I understand she's emotional. The league has physically tested her along with her last couple years in college in a way that other than maybe Steph Curry, Houston, you just don't see on a day-to-day basis. People that don't remember, she has now had the most flagrant or technical fouls drawn in the last 2 seasons. In 2024, they kicked her ass so many times. She drew 17% of all flagrant fouls by herself. Everyone just took whacks and hacks and eye pokes and pushes, and you're seeing it again this year where they're just knocking her down and poking her and grabbing her, and it's just so out of pocket and so unnecessary some nights and so excessive that multiple people have already been fined for targeting her. There's, of course, a lot of people brought up, I think there's a lot of jealousy, a lot of envy, a lot of anger, and they don't know how to handle themselves. A lot of emotionally immature WNBA girls who just beat the crap out of this poor girl. And thank God that we have Sophie Cunningham and others finally sticking up for her. But man, as I understand she complains too much, part of me also goes, but dude, she's also going through some trials and tribulations that short of when I remember Steph Curry against the Rockets, and that was really only against the Rockets, I don't see anybody on the male or female side get their ass kicked the way Caitlin Clark does. So she does need to chill out on the bitching and the moaning. Like I said, even her own dad at one point had to scream at her from the stands to quit your whining, quit your bitching. But even Asia Wilson said, and she's definitely Team Paige over Team Caitlin. Asia Wilson even once said nobody deserves that treatment, but she's still standing. I'm not saying it's right that she does it, but there is at least an excuse to go, dude, she draws 17%, and I think still this year, like 15% of all the flagrant fouls that are committed in the entire WNBA. Don't tell me she doesn't have a bullseye on her back. Number 4. This is always an interesting one, and this one might ruffle feathers. It's all white privilege. All because she's a white girl.
It's all right, because it's all white.
You know the only reason that Caitlin is popular and the reason you root for her is because she's a white girl. And this doesn't just show that you don't know your history, but I'll warn people that if you respond to this one, just know this. You're not arguing with logic. You're arguing with scar tissue.
I'm in a glass case of emotion.
It's an entirely different thing. You're arguing with scar tissue and trauma and things that they're bringing in from other places, so it's hard to get anybody to really listen. If they have a closed mind on this, it's going to be hard to get them to understand. But if you want to know at least what to respond, you can at least go with, you clearly don't know the history of the WNBA. Because I've repeated this, and I'll say it one more time, the WNBA is not the NBA. They have had white stars going all the way back to the beginning when nobody was watching. Rebecca Lobo, Sue Bird, now Brianna Stewart. We had Becky Hammond, girls like Deladon, Taurasi. It is not the National Basketball Association where every once in a while you'll see a plucky TJ McConnell or some foreign guy or Larry Bird back to the 80s where every now and again a white player is at least competitive in the league the way that it is. In the WNBA, there has been goats and stars and the heads of the snakes and the best players in the league over and over and over that have led, and no one gave a crap and nobody watched. So to simply put it on that is not just a little bit silly and, again, showing scar tissue or trauma. It's ignorant to the actual history. And it's even more frustrating for poor Caitlin because all she's ever done, if asked about it, has said nothing but the right things of what y'all want to hear. And it's never enough. You still complain. You say she doesn't do it. But I mean, God, Time Magazine seems like a pretty big place to come out and say, quote, I know my race gives me visibility. The WNBA was built on the backs of black players. We must highlight that and invest in those players. She's also said other things multiple other times. Yet somehow, they'll, again, this is why it's scar tissue. They'll come out and try to say she doesn't ever speak out publicly. Time Magazine? Time Magazine is not... Okay. But it's just, there's more to it, and if you want to be dismissive, be dismissive. I can't tell you how to not have an open mind. But even Chine Agumuke said, dude, it's not with Caitlyn just race. It's timing. It's branding. It's digital synergy. It's doing things, the logo threes, the excitement. You watch her versus other players. She just plays different. It's like Steph Curry. There's just a level of excitement that comes with her. Black, white, purple, brown, whatever you want to call it. And it's very Tiger Woods. It's very Tiger Woods. I've always loved that comparison because Tiger Woods, for people that don't remember or don't know your history as well in golf, was not the first black golfer. He was the most dominant. He's the one who was generational. He's the one who brought in a whole nother culture and a whole nother fan base to golf in a way that we've never seen, the way Caitlyn does with the WNBA. But he was not the first person of color to play golf. You had names like Charlie Sifford. There was Lee Elder, Calvin Peete. There was other golfers before Tiger, but they didn't move the needle. Same thing in the WNBA. They didn't just have a few. They had a bunch. I'll give you one more time. Sue Bird, Brianna Stewart, Becky Hammon, Delle Donne, Taurasi, stars. Didn't move the needle. Nobody cared. To try to say it's all just a white thing with Caitlin Clark is either just your scar tissue or you're dismissive or you just don't know your history.
It's all right, because it's all white.
Not your fault. A lot of things to remember and know in life. This is just one of the things that's included. This last one more for the Caitlin game. What is the most hateful things they say? The number 5 that we need to learn to respond to. Too many turnovers, and she's not good on defense, and fair enough. Fair enough. This is the closest I kind of listed it to where they got fairer and fairer, that there's too many turnovers with Caitlin Clark, and she is still not an elite defender on that side of the ball. But I'll also say it's kind of like ignoring everything she brings to the table because you focus on just the one chair that's missing. Like, yes, is she not the best defender in the WNBA? Sure. Does she commit too many turnovers? Sure. But this is like ignoring everything else that she brings to the table and just pointing at the one chair that is missing. She does average 5.4 turnovers per game. That is way too high. And once again, number 1 in the WNBA. But she also averages 8.7 assists. Also number 1 in the WNBA. She is also, again, top 10 in scoring, first ever to do that, and is number 1 in points created for a team offensively when you combine points and assists. That is the second year she is in that lead, and she is also in the same category as some of the other great offensive players who are given a high usage rate that have to respond and do a lot of things and are very responsible for their entire offense. Names like Diana Taurasi, LeBron James, Luka Doncic on the Mavericks, they all had very high turnover rates. Matter of fact, did you know that LeBron James and Diana Taurasi are the all-time leaders in turnovers for both the NBA and the WNBA? And I've never once heard anybody say, oh, they suck. They have too many turnovers. You're talking about two arguable GOATs of their sport. They are the leaders in it because to make an omelet, sometimes you got to break some eggs. When you're creating 40 to 50% of an offense, which these people are responsible for doing, you're going to have to force some things. You're going to have to make some moves. She does make bad decisions. It is so crazy how much she mirrors Steph Curry. She has the same problems of bad turnovers at bad times. She does need to fix it, but I do not think that it offsets in any way the unbelievable impact she has on the offensive end. Same thing with her defense. If her defense was so bad, explain to me why they have anywhere from a 6 to a 10 offensive net rating every time she's on the court, which means every time she's on the court, they beat their opponents by at least 6 to 10 points and go into the negative when she's off. If she was such a just pure defensive liability to the point it was able to be argued that it offset the other direction, you wouldn't be able to win almost every game that she's in the minutes that she plays. So it's true, too many. Defense could use some work. Same thing with Steph Young. But still, I do not think that it offsets everything that she does in the other direction, and you can't ignore everything that she brings to the table and focus on just the one chair missing. So there you go. That was the encapsulation. That was my top 5. And like I said, some of these things, it's almost not, I don't know if you even want to go and argue on the internet. I mean, the fact is you can't wake someone up pretending to be asleep. If they don't want to like Caitlyn, they're not going to like Caitlyn. Again, there's a lot of other things that are leaning into this, but in case you wanted it, I gave it to you. There you go.